This was so hard to read. This was so hard to read. Pull up. It's not English. This book is not in English. Pull up the quote from the beginning. I have no idea what that. I have no idea what that means. That's not. It's not supposed to be deep. I actually just don't know what it is. That's why I needed this. Without SparkNotes, this video is sponsored by SparkNotes. Without SparkNotes, none of this would exist. So anyway, let's continue with the video. Hello kids, today we're going to talk about The Canterbury Tales by Chaucer. Geoffrey Chaucer was known for misspelling his first name. Geoffrey isn't a real word, that's just silly. But he's better known as the father of English literature and the author of The Canterbury Tales, an epic poem written around, was it, like 1400. Canterbury Tales have 32 characters, 24 stories, and 17,000 lines of Chaucer's poetry. It was supposed to be 120 stories, but it was unfinished. The frame tale of the Canterbury Tales is this. So there's 30 people, 30 different kinds of people, and they all go to the same inn, because they're on pilgrimage to a religious place at Canterbury. And the innkeeper says, hey, since it's like kind of boring to walk all the way to the place, let's tell stories. And each person tells 2 stories, and whoever tells the best story gets free dinner when we get back. In the general prologue, Chaucer actually describes each character and like how they look and what their occupation is and just their like general demeanor, so that when they tell stories, the stories they tell kind of relate back and complement their initial description. For example, the knight tells a story about like classical Greek, and it's about like love and heroism. And the miller, who's like described as this disgusting dude, tells like this vulgar story about a carpenter's wife who everyone wants to sleep with. So one of the characters I found particularly interesting was the wife from Bath. And just like as a person, she's very complicated. I'm gonna tell you the story that she tells as an example, and then I'll talk about how it relates. Once upon a time, when King Arthur was president, there was a knight, and the knight is riding across, and he comes across a beautiful lady, and so he rapes her because I don't know, he's having a tough day. Anyway, so the king hears of this, and he says, that was naughty, so we're gonna kill you now. And the queen says, wait, don't do that. Let me work this out with the knight. So the queen says, if you can tell me what a woman wants most, I'll let you free. And so the knight has 1 year, so he travels all around the world, and he gets all sorts of answers. Some people say a woman wants money the most, or like orgasm, or like flattery, and the wife of Bath actually says flattery is closest to the truth out of those 3. Anyway, he finds no answer, and he's kind of depressed, until one day he comes across an old hag, and the old hag says, I know the answer. But I'm only going to tell you if you promise to do whatever I say after you get off free. So the knight goes before the queen, and he tells her the answer that the old lady told him, which was that women want most to have power over their husbands. And the queen says, well played, good stuff, that's the right answer, you're free to go. And the old lady says, wait, Mrs. Queen, I'm the person who told him that. And he said he'd give me whatever I wanted if it was right. So in front of this whole like courtroom, I want to propose to this man to marry him. And the knight says, come on, you're so ugly, I don't want to do that. And the queen says, alright, well first of all, that's very insensitive. And second of all, you're gonna marry her because you promised. So they get married, and it's like the night after the wedding and the old lady says, "What's wrong? Why can't you get it up?" And the knight says, "You're just so old and like not attractive." And the lady says, "All right, well you're being mean right now." And then she points out like the hypocrisy in being like a honorable knight, but then being this shallow. And so she gives him a choice. She says, either I can be old and ugly and faithful, or I can be like really beautiful, but I'm gonna cheat on you. And then the knight thinks for a second. He says, "You know what? It's fine. Just stay the way you are. I love you because you saved my life." And so then the old lady says, "Well, that's the right answer. Good stuff. Again, so I'm gonna be beautiful and faithful." And she turns into this very, very attractive woman, and they live happily ever after. Okay. For part 3, I'm just gonna do this. I'm just gonna talk directly to you, because I don't want to edit anymore, I'm tired. I mean, I might throw up some pictures or something, but other than that, I'm done. Which is it's like, it's 7 in the morning. It's very late, okay, alright, this has nothing to do with the project. This has not, so if you want to skip this part, go ahead, right? I thought this whole thing was due today, like on the day that it was supposed to screen, which is today, which is when you're watching it. I thought it was due then, right? So I was like, all right, that's cool. I'll wait a week and I'll make a sick, awesome project, but not now, right? And then 12 hours ago, I see an email that says it's due on the 29th, which is tomorrow. Well, now it's today. It's the 29th. And I was like, what? That's so soon. And I have to, so now I that's what I did. This is all I did the whole day. It was this. I had plans. I had things to do. And I can't do them anymore because, anyway, I know it's my fault, blah blah, but I'm just mad. All right, back to the project. Turn the music back on. The historical context of the Canterbury Tales. The Wife of Bath's tale is particularly interesting. When reading it in context of the prologue, she's not modest. She's been married several times, and she's very open with her sexuality. And she asserts her power as a woman in the relationship she's had, and she advocates that other women do the same, and gives examples of herself demanding orgasm from her previous husbands, equating the extensive necessity of male sexual completion with female satisfaction, which is a very sort of modern idea, and a very feminist idea for like medieval times, or 1400, whenever this was written. So in many ways, you can see her as a progressive feminist character, and in those times, in that very sort of stiff patriarchy of medieval England, that's kind of refreshing. But at the same time, you can see her as like a reaffirmation of negative stereotypes about women during the time, about like how they're deceitful or manipulative. So I mean, the Canterbury Tales were written to point out hypocrisies and absurdities in contemporary medieval English society, and especially with the church. Chaucer uses different types of people to create sort of a multi-layered critique of his society that both reflects and refracts the cultural norms of the time. It also highlights the sort of volatile subcurrent of class conflict. What influenced Chaucer himself in writing the book was his visit to Italy as a diplomat, where he read the Decameron by Boccaccio, which is what we read sometime in class, I think. And the Decameron is another collection of stories set around a frame narrative with a similar structure to what would become the Canterbury Tales. But why it's important, the book, is because it was one of the first like recognized pieces of literature to use vernacular English, which sort of popularized the use of that, and also is entertaining. It's a good book. Yeah. I mean, if you understand it, it's pretty entertaining, so. Alright. That's all I have to say, so.